Okay. All right. Can you guys hear me? No? Yes, maybe? Do I need the mic? Yes, no, maybe? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. This is the first of three present. Now, maybe? Do I need the mic? No, maybe? Okay. Well, the initial cause would have been my voice to start with. Okay. All right. So thank you for joining us for what is the first of three community forums for FSCC's presidential candidates. It took the board a lot of time and work to get to this point. I don't know if you've seen they started with 39 candidates, whittled to 7 and then whittled to 5, and now they're down to 3. So the goal of this time this afternoon is for you guys to be able to, as a community, ask questions of things of particular concern for you and things that you are interested in. Each candidate will be able to introduce themselves, give a 5 to 10 minute-ish elevator speech, if you want to call it that. And then we'll open the floor up for you guys to ask questions. Okay, so let's not make him wait any longer. Dr. Jason Kegler is our candidate this afternoon. I don't know.
Good afternoon. How are you guys doing today? Good, good. This is going to be kind of weird because I'm going to have to talk to this group and this group. So pardon me if if I turn my back to you, it's not. This is the better group. Okay. So I'll just talk to this group and you guys just nod your head or throw things, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Good afternoon. I'm Jason Kegler. I am excited to be here. This has been a process. And so I want to thank the board for their tireless work. I would say it's tireless. They may say it's just part of the business, but their tireless work to get this whittled down to the 3 finalists. And so I appreciate their work and their effort to and their commitment to the institution, to the community, to make this process work. Are you guys can everybody hear me? Sort of. I have never been told that I couldn't be heard in a room. So that's a little nerve-wracking, but okay. You guys can hear me now? All right, great. Okay, so I don't want to prolong this, so I'll get right into the presentation, and then there'll be some times for you guys to answer some questions and for us to have a little bit of a dialogue back and forth. Okay, so who is Jason Kegler? First of all, I am a husband and a father, and so my family has decided to join us, and so I am going to ask them to stand up, and I told them that they were going to have to answer questions from the community. So I want you guys to no. My youngest son is looking at me like, nah, I didn't sign up for that, Dad. So if you guys would just kind of stand up and come stand like right here, I'll do a quick introduction, and then you guys can go back to sitting in anonymity. Obviously on the left is my wife, Tara. Tara and I have been married for pushing 20 years. It'll be 20 years next May. I had to practice that multiple times before today. And our youngest son, Kyron Kegler, he is a 7th grader here at the middle school. My daughter, Raven, is, and I'm sorry. Go ahead and do your little wave and all that other stuff. Kyron is a 7th grader at the middle school, and he plays, he's an avid football player and baseball player here in the community. My daughter, Raven, go ahead and do your wave again. She is a volleyball player here at Fort Scott High School, and she also is a basketball player. What else do you do? She's a student out here at the college. She's enrolled in CNA classes for the fall. She took an ungodly amount of classes through dual credit last year. And so we're really, really proud of her, 4.0 student. And all of them are great students, 4.0, 3.5 type students. And then and she's a senior and planning to come to Fort Scott Community College when she graduates. And then our middle child, or our oldest son, is Dirks. He's too cool for school. He is a basketball player and a track athlete, and he's a sophomore. And so I did not mention my wife is the high school volleyball coach, and she's a para at the high school as well. When you see this and you hear this, this is not possible without these people here. For one, they keep me grounded, right? They're like, Dad, you're not as good as you think you are, is the first thing that they say. But two, the things that I do are for them. I want them to have the best life. I want them to have the best opportunity. And so these guys are my passion. They're where I'm at when it comes to my family. So I please give them a round of applause. You want to say something? All right, you guys go ahead and have a seat. Thank you. So I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, and I'm actually an uncle. I am I've got 23 years experience in higher ed in Southeast Kansas, 25 total. The first 2 I spent out at Pratt Community College as an academic advisor and basketball coach. And then the last 23 have been at 2 community colleges in Southeast Kansas and at Pittsburgh State University most recently. And also I'm a resident, full-time resident of Bourbon County. Our family decided to move, and it was quite the process, but we decided to move to Fort Scott in April of 2021. So we've been here for a little over 2 years, and it's been great. Very excited. The community has embraced our family, our children, myself, and so we just love it here. So that's who I am. Did I do that right? Nope. Oh, okay. So a little bit of background. I'm a higher education administrator. I'm also a faculty member, and I'm a coach. I take a lot of pride in that, coach, because I coached at the collegiate level for several years at another institution, and we used to come over here and play. Fort Scott Community College. We won some, we lost some, but I think we won more. Luke, don't go look up the record books to see if that's true or not. We're just going to go with my side of the story today because I got the microphone. A coach. I've been an endowment board member, an accreditation peer reviewer, and I'm also a certified law enforcement officer here in the state of Kansas. And so Sheriff Martin and I have had multiple conversations about me becoming a sheriff's deputy over here, but unless he's going to just let me go and sit on and go and do the photo op when they're busting a $1.8 million marijuana grow, I don't know that I want to do anything else. I'm just there for the photo ops. And I think he's like, yeah, no, that's not what you're going to do. So you're going to do real police work. So I'll stay there. This was a picture of my family on the first day of school last year. Their first day of school last year. As you can see, they've shot up and grown. I think Kyron has dwarfed his mother by now. And so that's the picture of the family. Sorry. Did I go too far? I think I did. Okay. So here we go. So the next thing I want to talk about is my vision. So that's you guys are here, and thank you for coming out. This is important for the community. This is a very important hire and a very important position within the community. So for you all to be here and to be as engaged in this process is important. And so I just want to take a few minutes to talk about my vision. My vision here within the community for the college is to be an asset. Not only an asset within this community, but within the region and the state. And I think that's going to be very, very important for us. Fort Scott Community College has a long history. 1919 is when the college was formed. And that's tremendous. One of the earliest community colleges in the state of Kansas, which is good, right? And so you have a story to tell. Your story is steeped in family and tradition. There's other things that, and I'm not trying to diminish any other things and accomplishments, but that's important because that's who we are as a community. And I say that because I'm a resident, so we are that. So I think it's important that we show how much of an asset we can be. The next thing is it's going to be a collaborative approach. Okay. You guys, if I'm the successful candidate, you will see my face. You will probably get tired of seeing my face, whether you're a business owner, whether you are just a general community member. I am going to be engaged in this community because I live in this community. I'm part of this community. I have 3 young people who are a part of this community, who are active in this community, active in the right ways. Is that fair to say? All right, good. That's the right answer. We practiced that a long time. I want them to be, and so the collaborative approach. I'm gonna require, not require, but I'm gonna ask our staff and faculty to be involved, to be engaged, because it's not about Fort Scott Community College. It's about Fort Scott. It's about Fort Scott, and I think I'm going to touch on that in a little bit, so I won't touch. I'll move forward. The other piece of our vision, of the vision, is that I'm student centered. Okay, we wouldn't be here without the students we serve, and that includes the student who is 18 years old. Back up, the student who is 17 years old taking dual credit. That is the student that is 19 years old. That is a freshman or sophomore here. That is the adult learner who has decided to come back to school. We are going to be student focused and student centered. And what that looks like is we're going to evaluate our processes and make sure that we're not setting up hurdles for students. We're going to break down all of our processes and make sure that it's student centered, student focused. Okay. We get caught up in these silos at times. We're not going to do that. All right. And then the other part is we're going to be constituent focused. We're going to take that same process that we use for students, and we're going to use that for all of our stakeholders, all of our constituents. So we're not going to evaluate just what we're doing for students. We're going to evaluate what we're doing within the community. I think that's very, very important that we be the community, right? Community is our middle name. That's a tagline that it's used in various other institutions. It's great. I wish I were the one who created it. I wasn't, but it's truly who we are. And I think that's where we need to be focused as an institution. So we need to be focused on our constituents as well as our students. And some of these pictures, so as part of this process, I took some pictures of campus, and I took some pictures of various campuses. So I went to CTEC down in Bourbon, or down in Crawford County, and I went to the Harley-Davidson, and I went up to Paola. So I visited those campuses and took a couple pictures. And so some of those pictures are what you see here. If you haven't seen the other facilities, not necessarily in Bourbon County, but at those other institutions or those other facilities that we're serving, you need to stop by there. I cold called every single one of them and was met with great people, great person. I have to tell you this story when I was at CTEC. What was the gentleman's name? Glenn Omi. So I walk in and I'm dressed like you guys are, right? I'm not wearing a suit and a tie and looking all official. And so I introduced myself as someone who was involved in the process. And at that point, the board hadn't even narrowed it down. I think they were still in the process of trying to determine what they were going to do. But I just went down and took it upon myself. So I walk in and I meet the administrative assistant, and then I meet Glenn Omi. And I said, hey, do you mind giving me a tour? And he said, sure, I'll give you a tour. So he tours me around the facility. I snap a couple photos. Well, at the end, I'm like, so just out of curiosity, what is it that you guys want, out of the next president? Glenn looks at me and he goes, I want you to leave us alone. I don't want you to bother us. All right, Glenn, I got it. And I said, well, Glenn, understand that when I do this, if I come down, I'm not going to come down and do a white glove treatment and be like, oh my gosh, this is so dirty. Really, I'm going to be using you as an excuse to come down and get Maldelli or something along those lines. And he's like, just don't bother us. I said, okay, fine. I said, is it okay if I just stop in? He goes, just stop in. I said, okay, good. Got it, Glenn, right? And so, if you guys get an opportunity, Glenn will, and especially if you're not a potential presidential candidate, he'll definitely treat you right, and he'll get you a nice tour of the facility. So it's awesome. All right. So all of those are pictures of just the campus community. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the mission. The mission of the college is so important, and I looked at the mission of the college, and I think it is spot on. Whoever did your mission did a phenomenal job. I think his name was Ralph. I think was part of the strategic plan that was redone. I know that everyone was a part of it, but he did a fantastic job at getting to the essence of what the community college should be. And the community college should be a service to students, and it should be a service to the community. And so I think that is so well written. I wish that I could take credit for it, but I can't. But it is, you guys have a top-notch mission statement. So for me to enhance that a little bit, what I would like to think we're going to do is we're going to enhance it by having a commitment to serve. I want to get to a situation where we are volunteering for anything and everything, and our students are volunteering for anything and everything. And we are truly serving the community, because without the community, we cease to exist. Without the community, without students. So we need to have this mindset of service. We also need to practice transparency, and that's transparency with tough conversations. That doesn't mean just the good things that we're doing, but the tough things that we're having to do as well. But understand that transparency doesn't mean that you get, or that we give the keys to the kingdom to everyone. Okay. There are certain things that statutorily and that we just can't share. And that's part of the process, but we will be transparent with the things that we do, or we will practice that. The enhancement of partnerships. Fort Scott Community College has done a tremendous job of going out and getting partnerships. They do a great job of accessing grants and doing grant applications and receiving grant funds. And so we need to continue that. We need to partner with the communities that we serve, because what's that partnership do? It enhances our services that we can provide, but it also keeps a low cost to all of our constituents, all of our stakeholders. Right. And so we need to make sure that we're enhancing our partnerships. We also need to promote the value of Fort Scott. And that's what I'm able to come back to it. Fort Scott is not Fort Scott Community College. It's not Fort Scott, Kansas. It is anything under the label of Fort Scott. It is Fort Scott High School. It is Fort Scott Police Department. And so we want to be in a situation where we are promoting the good that all Fort Scotians, is that how you say that? I was corrected on that a couple of times. We want to promote the value of all Fort Scotians. We want to promote the things that we're doing in the other counties as well, because based on what I was able to find, there's a significant amount of revenue that comes back to the college from those particular areas. And so that's important. So anything under the title of Fort Scott, we want to promote the value of. And lastly, Fort Scott is family. I mean, I there's no other way to say that. When my family and I were looking to relocate from southern Allen County, I'll just leave it at that. When we were looking to relocate, we looked at multiple different areas, multiple different cities, communities, towns, huts. I mean, we did it all, right? We looked at everything, but we kept coming back to Fort Scott because of the family atmosphere. The family atmosphere is what's important here, and that's a strength. Our students will feel it, the community will feel it, our employees will feel it. And I don't want to leave out employees. I haven't specifically said employees because I'm going to talk to them in just a little bit, but employees are truly critical in all that we do here at Fort Scott. And so we want to promote that family atmosphere amongst them as well. Okay. And then, so we're going to segue into my family and what I'm very, very proud of. I mentioned this kind of in passing, but I really want to harp on this. All of our children are on the AB honor roll. Okay. We have a rule in our house that 2 of the 3 have to have 90 or better, and 1 has to have an 85 or better, because we understand that one is that one, right? And so I say that, but that's the type of standard that we have, that I hold. I hold my family to a standard of excellence. I hold them that they are going to be the best that they can be. And that's what we're going to do out here at the college. We're going to make sure that the college is the best that it can be. We are going to fail. I promise you, we're going to make a misstep or 2. But I ask, and I just talked with the executive team, and I'm going to ask the community for the same thing. I want, if and when that day happens, that the community gives us space and grace to make that failure and to make it right. Because if it's truly a failure, we will make it right. I totally believe that. We are not perfect in everything that we do, but we will, I promise you, and I'm not going to make very many promises in this process, but I promise you that we will do our best to be fair and consistent in the way that we make our decisions. Our decisions they may not be what you want, or they may not be what you think, but understand the process by which we came to that decision was fair and consistent with every other process, every other decision that we've come to, or the process that we've utilized to come to a decision. Okay? Is that fair? All right, so I'm going to leave this up. I sorely soared over the time of 5 to 10 minutes, but that just left less time for questions. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm joking. With that, I'm going to open it up to you guys. Okay, I will repeat questions as they are asked, but one of the other things that I want you to do is I want you to tell me your name. Okay, I know some of you, I know several of you, but I don't know some of you. And so if you could tell me your name and if you live in Fort Scott or where you live at in Bourbon County or what you do in Bourbon County, because this community forum, it could be for the person that lives in a different county but works here as well. I totally understand that too. So if you would tell me what your affiliation is to the county or to the college, that would be great. So I will open it up for questions. Seeing none, okay, great. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Just repeating it, Bailey Lyons from Lyons Realty, former employee and current resident. And the question was, what do I see the biggest challenges facing Fort Scott? FSCC. Okay. FSCC. Obviously, the easy answer to that question is enrollment, because everybody says enrollment. But that's a situation that a lot of folks are facing. So let's take that out of the equation and let's talk about the problems that are specific to Fort Scott Community College, FSCC. So I would say probably first and foremost is trying to get a handle on how our streams of revenue, or how we're generating our revenue. Okay. Fort Scott Community College has maintained a very even mill levy for the last 10 years or so, 8 to 10 years. That's excellent. That is by far great work. And the board and the community are to be, are the ones who should take credit for that. So that's part of it. The other part of it is, in looking and comparing our tuition rate, our in-district tuition rate is roughly $105, right in that area. That's on the low end amongst all community colleges. Okay. And so we are providing a very, very cost-effective product for our students. How do we maintain that? How do we maintain the cost-effective for the student, but also maintain the cost-effective for our taxpayers? And so we need to be purposeful in our programming. We need to create programs that are going to be reimbursed essentially by the state. State funding has really diminished unless you're doing some tiered programming. And if you're doing some tiered programming, then they're helping reimburse you. So we need to be a lot more purposeful in creating programs. Okay. Fort Scott is surrounded by ag. And so we need to be doing our very best to make sure that we're supporting the agriculture that is surrounding Fort Scott and Bourbon County specifically. So we need to make sure that we're doing a good job of there. So some programs in that area, whether it be on the soil side, whether it be maybe doing some different things within just like the equipment and the welding and the John Deere program that was brought from Crawford up here. Those are all excellent programs that will continue to provide us with some sources of revenue. Okay. The other piece I think that's facing Fort Scott specifically is the workforce. Okay. Workforce is a humongous issue amongst colleges and universities now. There are a lot of institutions who are facing what I call the great retirement. All right. We had the Great Recession, we had COVID, and now we have the Great Retirement. There are a lot of people who were planning to retire towards that COVID time, right? COVID hit, everything became unstable. And so so people held off. And so now those people are wanting to retire. And how do we replace them with people who can do the job? Think about this. When those people leave, there are some people who have been here, and I probably should have done a better job of this, but I would imagine that the average employee at Fort Scott Community College has 10 to 12 years. Would that be average, or would it be less? Probably less, a little less. Okay, so we'll go with my number, right? What's the HR director know, right? We'll go with my number. So 10 years. People with 10 years experience, that's a lot of institutional knowledge that's walking out the door. They know things that we've tried and been successful. They've known things that we have not tried and should try, right? So we're going to lose a lot of that due to people retiring. So that's going to be an issue. And then how do we replace them, and how do we pay people, right? Wages is critical. All right. No one wants to work for free. I don't see anybody in here that's just dying to work for free. So how do we replace them and make our wages competitive? So we're going to have to figure some of that out. I think how we do that is through programming, through the addition of programs on the tiered side. I think the other piece is the community partnerships. And I think it's continue to go out and research grants and use grant funding like we've done so well. Another question? Okay. And so it was Mary Ann Childers, a longtime participant. I'll leave it at that. As a student and as a retiree. And the question is, how do you go about engaging faculty? Engagement with faculty is interesting, but it's tough. But I don't think it's as tough as a lot of people think, because faculty want to be included. Everyone wants to be included. And so, you know what? I may have to go talk to the faculty unit and say, hey, faculty, we need you to participate in this volunteer program that we're going to try to start, or we need you at such and such event. And so going out and inviting them, having a personal relationship, a personal commitment to them, and going and using that and saying, hey, why don't you come in? It's a whole lot easier for someone to say no to an email than it is when I'm standing face to face with you. And so I'm going to go talk to them. I mean, I'm not going to be afraid to talk to the faculty. They may not want to talk to me, and that's okay. I get that. But being part of FSCC, we're going to be able to talk to people. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't have to be an email that's sent. It can just be the old personal, I'm going to walk down to the office. You know, my former administrative assistant absolutely got so frustrated with me because I practiced this technique, or this ideology called management by wandering around. And I am totally, and that's a legit thing. You can look it up, but that's how I'm not in my office a lot. I'm here, but you know what? I'm going to get out and I'm going to go walk campus. I'm going to go be seen. And you know, if it's appropriate, I'm going to go talk to a faculty at their faculty meetings, at their division meetings. Please invite me. We can sit down. I think you can get a lot of engagement through just the personal touch, the old personal handshake and how are you? And hey, I saw your kid did this, or I saw your niece or nephew or grandson did this. I think that's how it starts. But then I think you have to be purposeful in the conversations and your request. You can't ask the same faculty member that do everything to always do the same thing. You can't ask that. You have to start getting the people that are over on the sideline. Those people on the sideline want to participate, but they're just waiting. They're just waiting for you to do something for them. So it doesn't have to be a give and take, but it has to be a, hey, let's get you a part of this. Okay. I think that you will benefit from this. And so I think it's establishing that partnership and having that open dialogue with faculty will help get that engagement piece of the faculty where we need it to be. And I think once we get past that, I don't want it to be this idea of faculty and staff. I want it to be FSCC. Good question. I love it. Rhonda Bailey. All right. So Rhonda Bailey, who is also a longtime supporter and attendee of Fort Scott Community College and recent retiree. She did the one thing that I think is very, very important. You've said a lot, but what does that look like, right? That's the question that you're asking. And so what it's going to take. So what does that look like? What am I going to do for the faculty? One of the things that I'm going to do for the faculty, or that I plan to do, is I plan to have an open and honest conversation with them about their needs. One of the things that I have found, hey, we'll see you, Chris. I know it's not personal. Chris told me on the way over, he goes, I'm going to leave about 12:15. So don't think I'm just mad at what you said. So thanks, Chris. Nice meeting you, sir. What I'm going to do is, A, we're going to have some conversations, but B, I think, and I had a great thought and then he walked out. Then I forgot it. I do that quite often. Squirrel. One of the things that I think is critical is I'm going to allow faculty to be trained. I do not believe that training is a bad thing. And I believe that if faculty are wanting to do something, then let's get behind your programs and the things that you want to do for your program. Now, I'm going to say this and someone's going to hear it and they're going to say, oh my gosh, she said we were going to do this, and that's not the way this is working. Okay. So, one of the things are there any biology faculty in here, former or current? Good. I can say, you leaned. I was like, oh, please not you. Okay. One of the things that it would be cool to have, anybody in here in nursing? Great. One of the things I think would be cool to have is some sort of cadaver lab, right? I think that would be an excellent tool for our students. Yeah. Ooh, it's kind of scary. It's a lot. It's difficult, right? But let's have that conversation, faculty, about why it is important that we will do it. And my process for getting things done is for us to have a conversation, you to tell me why you think this is important, and for me to go and sell it. There's this leadership technique called path goal theory, right? We're going to be on the path. We're going to set the vision. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to forge ahead, and I'm going to remove the hurdles so that you can get to the goal. And that's exactly how I practice leadership. That's exactly what I plan to do with the faculty. So, hey, tell me what it is that you want. All right. And let's be real about it. Okay. You can't say, hey, I want you get a car and you get a car. This isn't the Oprah show. This is Fort Scott Community College. So I want people to understand that just because you ask doesn't mean it's going to happen. But let's be purposeful in our ask, and let's try to figure out how we can do that. And so one of the things is the creation of making sure that our strategic plan, we're going to have, I would like to work with the executive team and the institution itself to look at what are some milestones, what are some things, what are some big ticket items that we want. So kind of like a facilities master plan or some sort of master plan. That way we have on there, this is what the faculty want. And we start to work towards that. It gives myself and it gives the board a vision of what it is, where we want to be. And it allows for us to plan on how to get there. Because if we just come in and say, well, I want this and I want this and I want that, I have 3 kids that do that all the time, right? And it's overwhelming. So if we can get some information, if we can start to compile a list, put it on a master plan, and then we know what we're planning towards, we know what we're working towards. And if we have to move something up or move something down, we can do that based on the current needs of the institution or the needs of the community. We can do that. But I think that's how you get it started. You just find out what they need, and then let's put it into play. Let's see where we can fit it in. Long answer for a very short, well, for what could have been a short answer. Okay. Okay, Rhonda again. I didn't mean that bad. All right. Okay. I was going to say, Rhonda, is that the lob? Is that the softball that I asked for somebody to send me and you just lobbed it up there? All right. All right. Yes. So my background, I started in student affairs. I started in student life. I was originally an academic advisor / basketball coach. I did admissions. And then I moved into student activities and housing, and then just kind of the career kind of blossomed from there. And so student life is my wheelhouse, and it is something that I, without completely understanding the budget and how those things are funded, it is definitely an opportunity. For me, I always found it easier that it's a lot easier to deal with a student at an activity than it is when they're in the residence halls and they've made a poor choice. I would much rather see them having a good time at Dairy Queen. So one of the things that I would like to work with, speaking of Dairy Queen, is let's do a Blizzard night. Okay. I was telling the executive team, we did a thing where students bought, where we would go to Dairy Queen. They would give us, that's scary. We would purchase, the students would get a Blizzard. They'd get a medium Blizzard. The students would pay $1 to us, to the college, and then we would take that and then put it towards their bill, and then we pay the rest of it off. An hour-long event would have 85 to 100 kids there in the first 30 minutes. And they're so grateful, and they're just having a great time, and they just want something to do, right? They can find things to do, but typically those things that we find for them to do, we don't want them to do. So we would do game nights. And so I would really work with the staff to see what they're doing, and then we have to enhance that. We are bringing students from all over the country to Fort Scott, America, who we don't want them, hey, I hear cow tipping is a fun thing. Let's go do that. We don't want them doing that, because then farmers are going to get upset with us, right? And I hope that no one uses that as a, hey, the president said go cow tipping. That's not what I said. But I really want them to have an opportunity to do something. I'll be honest, I'm a city kid. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. And I met my wife and I hung out on the farm, and the farm is cool. It is. All right. And now it's on record that I said the farm is cool. I'll never live that one down. And so getting those students involved in things that they normally wouldn't be involved in, right? We would do a mud volleyball tournament that was out at the rodeo arena. Well, let's be real. What's in the rodeo arena? But they had a great time because they were playing mud volleyball that they never ever get a chance to play. So doing things like that, engaging the students, finding out what is cool for them, and then let's put it into play. I don't want a student to ever leave because they're bored. That's not acceptable. And Tom's like, oh, I don't like that. But that's really where we're at. I don't want that. I want students to be engaged, and we need to figure out a way to make that happen. Even if we have to do some things different with fees and things like that, I'm willing to do that to provide an atmosphere that the students want to be here. Yes, ma'am. Yes. And it was Patty LaRoche. Okay. Patty LaRoche asked, what was the one thing that I was least prepared to adapt to in my tenure at higher ed? Well, I can give you several. So I'm just going to start with one, the change in student. The student, I entered higher ed in 1998. The student is vastly different. Now, coming from my experience, I worked with student life. And so I've worked with students who got in trouble all the time, right? Or made poor choices. In early 2000s, if I went to a student and said, hey, why did you guys do X, Y, Z? All right, Keg, you got us. I'm sorry. We won't do it again, blah, blah, blah. Right? Then we went through a phase where, hey, why'd you do that? You need to call my mom. Now we're at a stage where I didn't do that. You didn't see me do it, so I didn't do it. So just that change in student and their needs has been vastly different for me. One of the other things is the amount of oversight and the amount of scrutiny there is in higher ed right now. We are being scrutinized, and I get what's the value of an education, right? Because there's so many people who are out there making a lot of money that don't necessarily have a college education. So why is your degree so important when I can do X, Y, Z? So people being concerned about that, or people bringing that up has been a change. And I think the way that we get around that piece of it is, I think we have to start telling our success stories, because there are a lot of people who find success. And this generation is vastly different than most generations, because this generation doesn't have to have financial success. This generation is okay with, I'm successful because I said I'm successful. And that sounds like it's a bad thing, or it sounds like I'm using that in a negative way, but I truly mean that in a positive way. They are not allowing other people to determine their successes. And so we need to be able to do the exact same thing. And I think it'll be welcomed. The last thing that I'll say about what has changed is technology. Obviously, we didn't have online classes some 30 years ago. We didn't have Phoenix, University of Phoenix online. We didn't have all of those institutions. We had people who wanted to be in the classroom, and now they would prefer to be in the cloud. So as an institution, we have to be able to adapt to that and be able to provide that online experience for students, and make sure that it is one that, so the IT folks are like, uh-oh, he's gonna pick on us. We have to make sure that our IT is capable of doing the things that are needing to do. We also have to make sure that our facilities are up to par. Our facilities here are great, but we're looking at we're recruiting students from all over that have really, really nice facilities, and not that ours aren't. I'm not saying that. I think ours are. I've been to every community college in the state of Kansas, and ours, I would put facilities at FSCC up against any other institution in terms of what we can do and how we are. So, but we have to make sure we're on this. We're leveling that playing field and being at the top of that list as well. Okay. Great question. Okay, so it's Ann Dare. Okay, Ann Dare, resident of Fort Scott. What is it that Jason Kegler is going to bring to the table that will set Fort Scott up for success? Is that okay? Probably, I would say the first thing that I would say that I bring to the table is I bring a diverse background. My background has not only been at community college in Southeast Kansas, it's been at other community colleges across the state. It's been at the four-year institution. And so I understand what it's going to take for our students to leave here to get to that next step of their education process. So I understand that piece of it. The other thing that I bring about is I bring diversity. I bring a different perspective. I am from Kansas City, Missouri. I grew up I grew up in an all African-American neighborhood, and I was sent to a private school that was predominantly white. And so I had to experience a lot of what some of our out-of-state students here at Fort Scott would experience. I've lived it firsthand. I've been a coach at a community college, and I was talking to a friend about this the other day. I've been that coach who has to go to the game late so that I don't stick out like a sore thumb because I am the only African American in that facility. I've had to do that so that everybody wouldn't be like, "Oh my gosh, who's that guy?" Even though I was wearing whatever school I was representing. So I had to endure that. So I understand what some of those students are dealing with. I understand the diversity piece of that. And so from that, the only thing that I wanted was to be included. I wanted to feel included, and that was hard for me sometimes. And I promise you, that was not for show. That was totally unexpected. But I just wanted to be included. I wanted to feel like I was the same as little Joey sitting right next to me, or little Johnny sitting right next to me, or little Susie, whoever. I wanted that experience. I wanted them to not see me for the color of my skin. And the follow-up to that would be, I wanted them to see me for the content of my character. I get that. That's not where I'm going, but I wanted to be seen as a person. So there's not going to be a student who is not included at this institution. And having lived that experience, I'm going to make sure that all of our faculty, all of our staff, that the community includes our students. If we can be successful with the inclusivity piece, we will have lifelong fans of Fort Scott Community College. And that's what we want. We want them to be lifelong residents. Sometimes they might go the law enforcement route and have to be residents at his facility. We hope not, but we'll weed those folks out too. But we want them to remember Fort Scott in a positive manner. So having lived that experience, I bring that to the table. I can say that. And thank you for allowing me to be, I have trouble saying this word sometimes. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable and say that, because that was completely unexpected. Thank you for the question. Does that answer it? Or I can keep going for days if you like. But thank you. Yes. Okay, so Julie Leek said a lot of good things. The question that she asked was, I was still flattered by all the other things you said. Okay, so why would I choose Fort Scott? I hang on to that question because I may forget it, but I want to touch on something else you said earlier. We are, as she mentioned, that the picture up here that you see is once you get the Keglers, you get all the Keglers, and that's very, very true. Like, we go to each other's practices. So like, well, I mean, not their high school practices, but like their summer practices. A lot of our family call us Team Kegler, because when you get one of us, you get us all. And that's not a negative thing. I mean, I don't want you to think that we're like the bullies of the community, right? But we support each other no matter what we're doing. I mean, we try to adjust our schedules to make sure that we can get to our kids' activities, and we make sure that the other kids are at their siblings' activities. So Team Kegler all the way. That's something that we believe in. We're not the family that's going to go to the movie theater on a Saturday night. We might go to the gym though. Hey, can we get keys to a gym someplace? Or can we sit and play a board game? So that's the type of family that you're getting, which was part of the other part of her comment. So, so the real answer to that question of why we choose Fort Scott is we are as I said, we're a family, and we understand that our kids are going to have to transition. I've been at other transition out of the house and go to other institutions, and I totally support that. And if my child chooses an institution that doesn't have something that Fort Scott offers, then by gosh, we're not going to hold up your academic career. We're going to encourage you to move forward with that. But one of the things that I believe in well, I believe in this right here. And that is why I would send my kids to Fort Scott Community College. The mission that is steeped in a rich history of culture and diversity that provides affordable academic, technical, and occupational programs to meet the needs of my students, combined with the focus on mutually supportive communities with the college. That's big. So that's why I would send my kids here. I would send my kids to this college because of the opportunities that they're going to get. I have been to other community colleges. I've been an employee at other community colleges. I've been an employee at the state level. And what is being done here is just as good, if not better, than what's being done elsewhere. Could we do some different things? Yes, everybody could always do some different things. And could we improve upon some things? Yes, we could. But the value, the value of the education and the experience that my 3 young people will get from Fort Scott Community College, I believe in, and that's why they will most likely be here. Does that answer your question? Okay. Okay, no more curveballs. To the IT, not question-wise, sorry. Other questions? Okay, so one of the things that that I want to touch upon is I said this earlier. So I said something about I hope that the community gives us space and grace. I truly believe that. Okay, I am a resident of this county. I plan to be here. I had opportunities. We were living in Southern Allen County. I had opportunities to move to Girard. I had opportunities to move to Pittsburgh, Frontenac, all of those other areas, anywhere closer. But we settled upon here. And we settled here because it started because all 3 of our kids ended up getting picked up on a travel team. Raven played volleyball for a couple years for the Fort Scott, for the community college team, the Fort Scott juniors. And then the 2 boys were picked up by Safe Valley. Both of those organizations embraced us and would not let us go. I mean, it was obsessive how much they appreciated us and how much they brought us in, and they were always inviting us to do things over here. And so we were driving back and forth to practices and to tournaments and things like that. We didn't want to lose that. Okay, we've experienced that. We've been here. We've had this experience, and we love it. So that is one of the reasons. I say that to say Fort Scott is important to us because of the way that it has embraced us, the way that you all have embraced us. It's how many of you dread going to Walmart? I'm not going to ask you why you dread going to Walmart, but I'm just going to say every time we go to Walmart, someone we recognize says hello. For the first 6 months, it was, hey, you're Dirk's dad. All right. Dirk's is my oldest son. Hey, you're Dirk's dad. No, Dirk's is my son. I'm not Dirk's dad, right? I'm Jason. You're Jason, and Dirk's is your son, right? Yes. We had that conversation, didn't we? I said, I'm getting tired of your friends saying I'm your dad, right? I have a name too. But that's how competitive we are, in case you didn't notice. But that's the way that it always is. And so any place that we go, we know somebody, we run into somebody. There's 6 degrees of separation. We were at the wiffle ball game that's put on up there. Is it Burke Street, the Burke Street area? We were up there yesterday, and there was a lady who was standing outside, and we kind of struck up a conversation, and we know her we know some people that she knows, and she knows. And so there's always this connection to someone else. I love that. I grew up in Kansas City. You didn't do that. You didn't talk to other people. I mean, you just kind of went on, and if you did know somebody, you're like, I think I might know him, but I'm just going to keep my head down and keep on moving, right? So I like that family atmosphere, that connection that we have, and I think that's important, and I think that's a tremendous attribute for Fort Scott and for the college, because it's the same way at the college. I would be someplace and someone would be like, hey, I saw you out at the college at such and such event, or I saw you at the high school, or hey, our neighbor brings us newspapers of the kids when they do something good. There might be something bad that they've done too. I don't know, but usually it's the good things that she shares with us. So I've just appreciated the fact that we've been embraced. So are there other questions? Come on. There's got to be some pressing questions out there. We got 27 minutes before my next session. Is that right? 29? So we have about 10, 15, 20 minutes. 15 minutes. Does anybody have any other questions? I'm sure there's something. Yes. So Marianne Childers, that's a great question. What's my first day? What's my first week? One of the benefits to having been in the community is I understand the nuances of the community on day one. So really, I'm going to be, and I understand some of the nuances because I've been around of the college as well. So my first day is going to be very scary for the faculty and staff that are here, because I'm going to be out walking around and they're going to be like, oh, he's looking to see what I'm doing. No, I'm just trying to lay of the land. So I need to understand what happens here in Bailey Hall. I want to be able to meet people, and I want to be able to say, hey, you are Cindy Proctor, who is the cashier and the receptionist or at the front desk. I want to be able to say that. And so it's going to be getting to understand the lay of the land. At some point in the first week, I'd like to think that myself and the executive team will have a sit down conversation to talk about, okay, hey folks, what is it that's going on? What is it that we need to know about? Giving the timing, we need to be focusing on the return of students, because whenever the day one occurs, students will be here within 2 to 3 weeks. And so are we ready for day one? Do we have the residence halls, which I've noticed a lot of people around here call them dorms. I call them residence halls. So just keep that in mind. If you hear me call them residence halls, just understand I call them residence halls. Have I driven that point home enough? Okay, good. I call them residence halls. So are we ready? Do we have classes lined up, or where are we at with bill collection and students getting enrolled? And is there a closed class list, and is there a wait list? How are we manipulating students off of that into classes? Do we have pickups for students? I mean, I want to make sure that logistically things are intact, because we're going to have to hit the ground running whenever that gets started. And so that's a precursor to some of the things that they probably need to start thinking about if I'm the successful candidate, because those are going to be the questions that I ask. But kind of more broadly, year one, it's going to be about understanding what's going on. What are some of the strengths? We're going to do some SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. No. It's not. I can't think. Threats. Thank you. Who said that? Awesome. Threats. So we're going to do a SWOT analysis to determine what are some of those areas. What are some of the potential landfalls, pitfalls, landmines that we need to navigate. So I'm going to learn that. So year one is just going to be about survival. Year two, we're going to be looking at innovation. So now that we have all this stuff, okay, how do we innovate and how do we make this happen? And then year three is about implementation. So if you scale that back, we're going to do the exact same thing as we approach the first 6 months, as we approach the first year. We may be looking at some of the low-hanging fruit. What are the low-hanging fruit items that we can pick off pretty easily? So let's go after those. And one of the things that I want people to know is that I'm giving employees permission to fail. A lot of times I think employees don't stretch themselves because they're afraid to fail. They're afraid to make a mistake. Who in here enjoys making a mistake? A mistake to me is an opportunity. A mistake is an opportunity to learn. I coached many a basketball and I lost a whole lot. None to Fort Scott, but I lost. No, I'm kidding. I lost many a ball game. I learned more from every loss than I did every success. It's important to have success because that drives you, right? That motivates you. But it's okay to have failure. And so I'm going to talk, and we're going to talk to the employees about, hey, I want you to take calculated risk. Important term there, calculated. I don't want to just take risk. I want you to take calculated risk because I'm giving you permission to fail. And we are going to fail. But I promise you, we're going to succeed way more than we fail. Because you're not going to try something that you aren't sure won't be successful at. You may, but once you fail a couple of times, you'll be like, okay, I'm not trying that again, right? And then we'll have to come and get you out of that shell. But I want people to have permission to fail. I really do. And so it's going to be instilling that culture here at the institution that it's okay to fail. Nothing wrong with it. No harm, no foul. Let's learn from it. What do we learn from it? Okay. And the other thing is I'm going to ask a question, and then I want you guys to tell me I'm going to point at somebody and I want you to tell me the first thing that you think about. Okay. That comes to mind. All right. I'm going to say the word change. Change. So I'm going to pick on Lynn. Exactly. Did you see that? No. I don't know if that was no, I don't want to answer or no, I don't want change, but I'm going to go with it was no, I don't want change. Right? We have to alter the way that we see change because change is not a bad thing. Okay? So we have to set this mindset of it's not change. It's we're going to pursue a different path. And I'd like for us to be, because there are going to be times where we can't be the one who dictates that, but there are a lot of times where we can dictate which path we choose. And so I don't want us to be fearful of change. I want us to be excited about exploring a new direction, choosing a new pathway. If I say choose a pathway, no problem. Why? Because you have control over that. Change, we feel like we have to give up control, and we're not giving it up because we are choosing a new path, choosing a new direction. Okay. What other questions? You guys got me all excited. I feel like I'm in church, getting ready to do some stomping around. Sorry. It's Rhonda, and it hasn't changed since. Well, so right. So Rhonda has talked about USD 234, but I also want to, she mentioned 234, but I also want to keep in mind, we have USD 235, which is Uniontown, West Bourbon. I don't know what is it Uniontown? It goes by Uniontown, not West Bourbon. Okay, so we have 235 there. We have approximately 40 students in the senior class that are ripe for pickings to come over here. And so we need to provide things for USD 235. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying that because that's the west side of the room and this is the east side of the room. And some of them are going to Allen County. And I don't, when I was recruiting at the collegiate level, I let a lot of students in my backyard go to other institutions, and then they end up beating. A couple of them came here and might have beat us on once or twice, maybe. I don't remember. It's a little fuzzy. But so I think it's important that what we do for one, we're doing for the other, and we're making sure that that's equal. Again, that goes back to that whole inclusivity piece. I don't want Uniontown or 235 to feel different than 234. And so I'm going to engage 235 and 234 in the same conversations. To be completely transparent, I've had conversations with the superintendents of both and let them know that, hey, I'm in this process. I'd love to have a more formal conversation if this becomes a thing, because you guys are just as important as both of you are important to me and to this institution. So how we're going to get engaged. We are going to go to their activities. We're going to invite them to campus for activities. One of the things that, and I don't know how this works, but if we have to send counselors to their schools to enroll their students instead of putting that on their counselors to do, we'll do it. Okay. And I don't know if that's being done or not. No. Okay. So that's one of the things that I'd like to see us do is we need to send a contingency to their school and say, feel free to come in, feel free. Here's your enrollment forms. Let's fill them out and let's see. Right. The other thing is Uniontown had a great fireworks or a great 4th of July on the 3rd of July party the other day. I was frustrated that there was not a presence from the college. I was frustrated that at good old days at the parade, now I only made it to the parade because I had baseball the next day out of town, but I didn't see a group from the college supporting the college there. One of my friends, a colleague of mine who is at another institution in another state, he was talking, and I would love to see every resident in this county with a Hound Nation t-shirt. It's going to cost, I get it. But we have to be more purposeful in cultivating those kids when they're like this to want to become a Hound, okay? To want to become a Greyhound, to want to become FSCC. We have to start cultivating that at an early age. And then they'll come. If you build it, they'll come, kind of a deal. So I would love to see, and again, I don't know how we're going to pay for it. It's one of those things that it's probably not going to happen tomorrow or the next day or within the first 6 months. But hey, we need to be at good old days. We need to be at the Uniontown fireworks display. We need to be out and about at community events. I do too. Okay. I need to be there too. I'm not just saying, oh, you guys go do it. I'm running to Kansas City. Not going to happen. Okay. It is something that we will all do as a team. And that's part of the volunteering. You know, for example, my wife and I were talking at Uniontown. What would it cost us to have watermelon there for people to eat? A little bit of time, a lot of flies, but you know what? I shouldn't say this. I will find someone to personally spring for the bug spray, okay, to keep the flies away from your person. But what would it cost for us to do that? And how impactful would that be? Just something as small as that. It's not a big deal for us. How many of you went to the Uniontown fireworks display? Well, several employees types. maybe not. But you know what? Hey, guess what? You have to give up your Monday evening for 2 hours to run over to Uniontown to do something good. If it makes you feel better, then take 2 hours vacation later on in the week, right? And Julie's looking at me like, oh my gosh, you can't say that. And I'll probably hear it later. But you know what? We have to do things like that. Okay. As a community member, I was frustrated that we didn't have a presence there. Not frustrated, but I was like, wow, we should do this. This is something we could do easily, and it won't be too big of a burden on us. So that's how we start giving back to the community, especially the schools. That was a long time ago that you asked that question, but I'll get around to it eventually. Any other questions? Okay, so can I ask questions? May I ask questions? All right. So it is a Wednesday afternoon at 2:45. And you are listening to some guy that you may have seen in Walmart speak. Why are you guys here? And anyone can answer that question. Yes, Anne. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One thing I didn't mention, I hope I alluded to it, but I'll say it now. We need to make sure that we're being good stewards of the resources that the county provides us. That is very, very critical. We will not do things that are lavish and out and over the top. That's not how things need to be done when we are working for the community, when we're a part of the community. And so we need to make sure that we're being good stewards of the resources that the community provides us, because yeah, we need to be better. So thank you for that. Anyone else? Good. And there are 105 or so counties. Is there 105? 105 counties in the state of Kansas, and roughly, well, if you count Montgomery that has 2, there's less than 20 that have a community college in them. That's serious opportunities there to partner and to collaborate. And so we need to improve upon that. You know, I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't know the state of it, but it's my hope and my goal that we make it better. And we will strive to make that participation, that collaboration, that partnership with the community. Again, I'm not saying that it's bad to begin with, but I'm saying that that is something that is important to me. We will continue to do the good work in the classroom and in academic and excellence and student success. We will continue to do that. I have no doubt about that. We are putting together we have a fine academic program here at this institution. Offerings, could we always offer more? Yes, we could always offer more. You can always do more in my mind, right? Nothing's tough enough for you. Nothing's too tough for you in that situation. So we can do more. We will not let that slip, we will just make sure that the community knows that we are here and that we are part of the community. Did you want to say something else? Or are you good? I'll let you. Yeah. And I think that is, I think what programs we offer outside the county, we need to try to replicate inside the county as well, given resources and things like that. But that doesn't mean, no, I think that's very, very important. And I think that's one of the things that, that you'll see that we're going to start to have more purposeful conversations about, okay, what is it that we're doing outside the county? And what is it that we can do just by replicating what we've done somewhere else and utilizing the same resources? Because the same students that are benefiting in Crawford County, Miami County, wherever you want to go, Bourbon County and Lynn County can support or can benefit from as well. So great. Any other questions? All right, I'm getting the time sign. So let me finish by saying this. Thank you guys very much for being engaged in this process. It truly, truly means a lot to me that you guys would give up your Wednesday afternoon to come and listen to a guy that you may know or may not know speak for an hour and a half. I do think that regardless of how this process works, I trust that Fort Scott Community College is still going to continue to do good work. There are a ton of good people who work here, who are keeping things running and doing a fine job with it. And so I don't think you have to worry about the college itself. I think there's an opportunity. Anytime there's a change in leadership, there's an opportunity there for you to do some different things and continue to enhance upon some things that are already being done. And that's totally fine. But I think this college will be in good hands. I'd like to think that it will be in my hands, but that's not in my hands to make that decision. So, but I do appreciate your guys' time. I really, really do. Thank you guys very much. And if you have any other questions, I'm standing around here and you can ask them as you would like. Thank you.
I just forgot. Is this still on? Okay. I just forgot to share when we started at both doors, there is a poster that has a QR code for each, actually at all three doors, has a QR code for all 3 days. On your way out, please snap that with your phone. And I know I'm getting to that. Please snap that with your phone. It will take you to a survey where you'll mark whether you're an employee or a community member. And then it's just 2 other questions and a comment. I think things you like, things you're concerned with, and just any other thoughts. So please take the time to do that. If you do not have the ability to scan a QR code, come see me and I will get you a paper form, which is honestly the way I would fill it out. But this is a lot faster and it will give our board the data tonight to go ahead and review for today's session. Okay.